This is Andy Kent.
Andy,
So,
right.
are you a photographer? Is it okay if you take still picture?
Sure. Hey, why don't we, have you had breakfast yet or lunch?
Neither.
Let's go down to the Garden District. See what we'd like there, too. Back in Elektra.
The whole thing seems to have something to do with the rent-a-car company in New York owning everything.
Yeah, they almost bought my publishers, too.
Kenny wanted to buy them?
Yeah. They almost did buy it.
Have you heard Jack Holston's son before?
Yes. I love it.
Really?
I really liked him for a lot. I really liked everything he said. It was like watching a bubble in a microscope. It's like a miniature cat. Hey, look. Thanks for the music. I'm going to meet you down there.
Where is your dad?
See you later. Garden District's all right.
Is that the woman in the theater?
Yeah, right beside it. Yeah, good festival, first song festival going on.
Yeah, so I've heard.
And what about it?
And this is Seventh Samurai, so that he's finished.
Yeah, I hope not.
It's going to
back
be
to
on
one
my
more-
phone. It's pretty excited over headed over there.
It's going to play again, I think it's 16th or something, one more day. Oh, that's weird. I guess they're only showing each day in a couple days.
A couple days when they bring it back for one day later.
That's good. I really wanted to see it. I really want to see it.
A bunch of them are supposed to be, like one of the greatest Japanese classics.
Yeah, I haven't seen very many of these films. Really glad just to get the vet Japanese.
Can't remember what something. There's one supposed to be the greatest fight scene of all time. It's one of them. You know, millions and millions of people or something. They brought out China for it. You're recording new stuff?
Yeah. We're, I don't know if you saw the setup we have on the board upstairs and recorded all down there.
I take it you prefer that to the Elektra setup?
No, we don't really, it's not the studio really, it's just, I don't know, I guess we thought we'd do things a lot better when we're rehearsing and feel more comfortable. Yeah.
So you just leaving tape running while you're doing rehearsing?
Right. And then when we all feel one that we all think's good, we'll listen to it. And it's a lot cheaper and faster that way too. Right? the equipment, and you can use it whenever you want it. Just so you can pay $1,000 a day.
So you can run into a studio, right?
Practice on it. This will be the first record we're actually doing without a producer. We use the same engineer that we've always had, Bruce Botnick. I don't know if he'll be called a producer or not, probably co-producer.
It'll be kind of humorous and
yeah. But, so that'll be a big change too. In the past, the producer was, it's not that it was a bad influence or anything, but this will be, you know, it'll be a lot different. Not having that fifth person there, fifth viewpoint, right?
Usually it's completely different people.
So we'll either hang ourselves or we'll find something interesting.
What's going to be the first absolutely new stuff you've done in a couple of years? And 13 is the greatest hits, and the live stuff is stuff you've been doing in concert.
Yeah, there were a few new ones on that. A year ago we finished Morrison Hotel. That was like, it's more like a year since we've been in the studio, about a year.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took so long. I guess that trial going on kind of broke everything up a bit, and I forget why we got recorded.
How does that stand? You're still on a field?
Yeah, it's going to a higher court. State Supreme Court.
Miami State. Whatever happened with it? There were a lot of other busts around also, weren't there?
Everything else I've been acquitted on. So we're trying to get this erased because it's not good to have something like that on your record, man.
Are you still concerned with the kind of record?
It's just if something really serious happened, then you'd have a record and it makes it a lot worse, you know. Oh, it's not crime.
Well, it looked for a while like they were out to get you. There was like a federal hijacking bust or something also? Someone was telling you?
Well, it came under a law that was created because of hijacking, but it wasn't really a hijacking exploit. It was just flew over exuberance on an airplane. You know, it wasn't a threat to anybody's safety or anything. And actually, we were acquitted because the stewardesses mistook me for someone else that I was with. Oh yeah, sure.
They mistook you for someone you were with?
Yeah, and so they were going by the seat identification. And they were saying the person in such and such a seat was causing all this trouble, and then they all identified me as being in another seat. So they were just trying to hang me, you know, because I was the only one that had a well-known face or something. So they were trying to get me for it. I don't know, I guess as an example of the people that behave in airplanes. So, the trouble with all these busts is people that I know, friends of mine, think it's really funny and they like to believe it's true. So they accept it. And then people that don't like me want to believe it because it's an incarnation of everything they consider evil. So they get hung both ways, you know.
How did they were just acquitted before anything happened?
I went through a trial there in Phoenix too. I had to go back several times to get that cleared up. Hey, how are you? Anybody want a cocktail before you order? Is that tequila with...
Tequila.
That sounds good. I'll try one of those.
No, no good. No, never make it through the day.
Black and coffee, coffee for...
Yeah. It's always disorienting when you just get up and there's a luncheon menu.
I know, I just got up myself.
I can make up something. What does it look like your chances are in Miami of getting off? It's now just one misdemeanor charge?
Well, two misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Well, I have to be optimistic, so I think there's a good chance. We're gonna contend it on several grounds. First of all, they never really proved anything except profanity, which we admitted all along, that there was profanity used in the performance. And we were going to attempt to prove that that did not violate contemporary community standards in the city of Miami. And to do that, we were going to take the jury to see a lot of movies, like Woodstock, and Hair was playing in town at that time, and they had nudity on stage every night, and they were allowing young people to go in of any age. And all the books that were available, even in school libraries, junior high school libraries, with four-letter words. So the judge refused to allow any investigation along those lines, and limited it to a criminal action. Well, they brought on about 13 witnesses. Every witness was either a policeman who was working there that night, or someone who worked for the city and happened to be there, or a relative of a policeman. In fact, that was their biggest witness, was a 16-year-old girl who was the niece of a police officer who got her and her date in free that night. And all their testimony was very contradictory. You know, every one of them had a different version of
I heard that
what happened.
I heard that girl called someone a little bitch after.
I didn't hear her do it. That's what I heard. But, they had thousands of photographs from many different people that were there, and there was no photograph of an exposure or anything near it. And the other charges, I think they just put in there to make it look more serious, you know, simulated masturbation and oral copulation.
With yourself?
Yeah, masturbation on myself and oral copulation on the guitar player. Which there's a picture of that in the inside sleeve of that Best Hits album. That was their big proof, you know.
What is the picture with a lamb on the end of your hand? A lamb head?
No, it's a real lamb. That guy, Louis Marvin, you know, the Moonfire. He happened to be down there. He travels around spreading his philosophy of nonviolence and vegetarianism. And he carried this little lamb around to demonstrate his principles. In other words, if you'd eat meat, you know, you're killing this little lamb. So he gave it to me during the middle of the show, and I just held him for a while. It was really interesting that there was a lot of noise and a lot of commotion was almost deafening in the auditorium, but the lamb was breathing normally, almost purring like a kitten. It was completely relaxed. I guess what they say about lambs to the slaughter is true, you know, they don't feel a thing. Anyway, the judge limited the defense's witnesses. We had 300 witnesses who were there, and we were going to parade them all in, get their side of it. He limited the defense to the number of witnesses that the prosecution brought on, which is an entirely arbitrary maneuver.
Did the 300 witnesses volunteer? Were they? Did you run an ad, or?
Yeah, a lot of them did, and just through the grapevine, you know. But we had over 300 people that were willing to testify that they were there, didn't see anything of any of those alleged incidents. What it turns out that actually happened was a journalist happened to be there or heard about this concert, and the next day he went and wrote a sensational front page story about the concert, about inciting to riot, and the citizens became irate and began calling the police station asking why this had been allowed to go on and why wasn't I arrested. And I'd gotten up and gone on to Jamaica for a holiday that had been planned down there, and so about 3 or 4 days after the whole thing, they swore out a warrant for me. So you can kind of see how the whole thing, you know, began.
One of the things that just bothered me, I spoke to Mike Gershman when he was down there with you, and he said you weren't able to perform during the whole course of the trial. But is that true, or were you doing performances?
The only one we did during the trial went on for 2 months.
Did they put any limits on you as far as where you could travel or anything like that?
Not really. They might have, but we just went ahead and did a few things. But actually, the only thing I did was to fly to the Isle of Wight for a day, and then I came right back. We could have done it, but really, we never knew from one day to the next when court was in session.
You know, they were doing an alternate day.
Yeah, and he'd change it every day, so we never knew. So to have flown somewhere for a couple days, I really needed the weekends to rest up, you know. It was kind of an ordeal.
Do you think the whole thing was because of the way it came about and the arbitrary? Is it just a question of out to get you or out to get rock culture? Or?
Yeah, I think it was really a lifestyle that they were going after. I don't think it was me personally. I just kind of stepped into a hornet's nest. I had no idea that the sentiment down there was so tender. The audience that was there really enjoyed it. You know, it was, I think people reading about it in the paper, this distorted version, created a climate of hysteria. And then a few weeks later, they had an anti-indecency rally at the Orange Bowl with a famous fat comedian as MC.
Yeah, well known for his decency.
Right, and the president congratulated the kid that started this rally. They had them all over the country.
Yeah.
So I wasted a lot of time and energy on that thing, but about a year and a half of kind of a gnawing disquiet about it. But I guess it was a valuable experience because I think before the trial I had a very unrealistic schoolboy attitude about the American judicial system, and my eyes have been opened up a little bit. There were guys down there black guys that would go on each day before I'd go on, like for, it'd take about 5 minutes and they get 20, 30 years in jail, you know?
Their trial.
Yeah, and if I hadn't had unlimited funds to continue fighting my case, I'd be in jail right now for 3 years. It's just, if you got money, you generally don't go to jail. It's about...
Did you find yourself excluded from the entire proceedings? The way I think Manson feels that he's not even a part of the trial. There's a whole system going on.
Yeah, I felt like a spectator, but I wouldn't have wanted to defend myself because I would have blown it, I'm sure. It's not as easy as it looks, you know.
Did you ever get to testify at all?
Yeah, I didn't have to testify, but we decided it might be a good thing for the jury to see what I was like, because all they could do is look at me for 6 weeks or whatever it was. And so I testified a couple of days. I don't think it meant anything one way or the other. Did you used to have ties with company theater?
Have you seen Children of the Kingdom?
I saw half of it, but I was so uncomfortable I couldn't sit through the rest of it.
Just because of the theater? Or because of the show?
Because of the show, it made me really uneasy. You know, not that I don't appreciate satire, but...
Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was satire. I like satire, but it just hit too close to home, you know, it made me real edgy, so I had to get up and split. But I enjoy their work, especially that maze ritual they have on Sunday, the liquid theater. That's one of the most interesting things they do. I don't know very many of them personally, but I've been attending their things off and on for a couple of years, and I'm glad and amazed that they managed to keep going. I think that's great.
I was curious because the story is, you know, in ways parallels the kind of performer that the protagonist there is depicted to be. Is this vibrant show thing, and there's some sort of, at least I thought, you know, insight into what's going on in the performer's head. I mean, why do you think people go to see a rock concert, especially if they're going to be too noisy to hear the music?
Oh, I think people enjoy being in crowds. It gives them a feeling of power and security in a strange way. They like to rub up against hundreds of other people that are like them. It kind of reinforces their truth.
And what's your function in that as a performer? Just getting them together?
Yeah, it's just to be a focus for everyone's attention, because you have to have an excuse to mob together. You can't just, otherwise it'd just be, what would you call that? That would be a riot or something, wouldn't it? I think it has to do also with...
It probably has to do with a person's terminology, because lots of people would term what goes on at a Doors concert a riot. You know, whereas you may not or I may not.
No, we never really had any riots. I mean, a riot's a more out-of-control, violent thing. We never had too much what I'd call a real riot. I think it also... it has something to do with swarming theory. The idea that in insect and animal species, when the food supply, the population starts outstripping the food supply, the animals or insects swarm together. It's a way of communicating and working out a solution, or making each other, signaling their awareness that there is a danger. And in nature, somehow a balance is worked out, and I think that's what, for example, in LA or New York, in many big cities, you feel crowded. You feel psychologically crowded and just physically crowded. People are getting very neurotic and paranoid. And I guess things like rock concerts are a form of human swarming to communicate this unease about overpopulation.
Okay, answered.
I don't. That theory's not really well worked out yet. You know, I think there's something in it.
I heard you were going to try and do more club things, do whiskey things. I read the Rolling Stone interview with you. You said you might want to drop by the whiskey and just do guest sets unannounced.
Oh, I said that years ago.
It wasn't this year's Rolling Stone interview?
Last year's.
Oh, it was last year's Rolling Stone interview.
Yeah, I was trying to get everybody to do that about a year ago, and no one wanted to, and now they kind of want to, and I totally lost interest. Although, I know it's a lot of fun, but I just don't have the desire to get up and sing much. I still enjoy music, but I don't really, kind of lost my interest for it.
Performing? Are you going to go more into doing your films?
Yeah,
poetry?
Yeah, films, I think. But there's no big hurry on that. How are you?
You've done about 5 films to date, or 5 that have been shown at least.
Yeah, 2 of them are. Well, one of them really is a real film. The other ones are real short ones.
Well, there's Feaster Friends and Highway and a few promotion films.
The Highway's the only really film I did. The others were more. I was actively involved in them, but they weren't really totally my film. But The Highway is, to a large degree. I always see films as a team effort, you know, except in rare cases. But yeah, I'd like to get Highway shown. I think maybe it might work in educational television, NET. It's about the right length. You see, it's an uncommercial type film. And it's too long for a short to play with another feature, and it's not a feature itself. 50 minutes. So it's an awkward length. I don't know. I think maybe educational TV might be a good spot for it. You've seen it, haven't you, Pat?
No.
You didn't see it?
I think I last brought it to you.
Next time I show it, I'll invite you over to see it. You didn't see it?
No, I haven't. What's it about? Kind of, if it's the kind of movie you can say, what is it about?
There's no story, really, no real narrative, except there's a hitchhiker who we don't see it, but then we later assume that he stole a car and drives into the city, and then it just ends there as he gets into the city, checks into a motel, and goes out to a nightclub or somewhere, and it just kind of ends like that.
This sounds a little like in The Lords, the Oswald scene as a theme for a movie. Is that what that was?
I guess they're related. I had always been fascinated with a story about a hitchhiker who becomes a mass murderer. And I set out to make that film, but it turned into a different film, a much more subtle fantasy. Someday I'd still like to make that Hitchhiker film, though, because I think it's a good one.
You play the hitchhiker in Highway. Is acting something you want to get into as?
No, it was just easier that way. Well, I don't know, it's heavy, but the cameras they're getting lighter and lighter. It's amazing. You know, actually, I realize now we didn't really have to do 35. You know, 16 would have been probably.
One thing's remade to 16 hours.
Yeah,
And you can blow them up.
yeah. And for example, Woodstock is all at 16, and the quality is, I think, beautiful.
A couple of things that you said about film kind of interest me, like the appeal of film is in the fear of death, something like the appeal of cinema lies in the fear of death. Is it something you can explain?
I just meant that I think in art, but especially in films, people are trying to confirm their own existence. Somehow they seem more real. Somehow things seem more real if they can be photographed and, you know, if you can create a semblance of life on a screen. But, you know, those little aphorisms that make up most of the Lords, if I could have said it any other way, I would have, you know. They're kind of to be mulled over and not taken too seriously, but it was, I did most of that book when I was at the film school at UCLA, and it was really a thesis on film aesthetics, because I wasn't able to make films then, so all I could do was think about them and write about them, and it probably reflects a lot of that. But then a lot of the passages in it, for example, about shamanism, turned out to be very prophetic several years later, because I had no idea when I was writing that that's what I'd be doing, but that's what it turned into.
Just as curiosity, it says on the liner of the book that your ambition is to be a film director. Is that your ambition?
Yeah. That's what I'd like to do.
Another thing, I like at the end where you kind of define the Lords as the people that are controlling art. Did I understand that right, or that are enslaving people by giving them enough art?
Strangely enough, that's what I meant. Is anyone ready to order? Do you think we should?
Our special today.
Special today is muffles.
Veal and peppers.
It's some spaghetti with some veal, pepper, mushroom.
It had to be crab, but could I have a cheeseburger?
Medium.
Another one of these? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll go her crassness one more and have a grilled cheese.
I'll go for just plain grilled cheese.
Right.
I'll the king size burger. Will be a taste.
Your play.
The Reuben is good. It's like that.
Why don't you meat?
Oh, I'll take eggs.
Like another drink?
Did you like this? You did? You want another one? Okay, yeah, she'll have another one and I'll have a beer, I guess.
Budweiser, Michelob.
Michelob would be good.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, so... Yeah, not controlling art necessarily, but just... Really what that book is a lot about is the feeling of powerlessness and helplessness people have in the face of reality. That they have no real control over events or their own lives. Something is controlling it. But the closest they ever get to it is on a television set. But in creating this idea of the Lords, it also, I think, came to reverse itself. And now to me, the Lords means something entirely different. I couldn't quite explain it. But almost the opposite of that. You know, somehow the Lords are a romantic race of people who have found a way to control their environment and their own lives. They're somehow different from other people.
Is there a particular person that you can think of?
No, it's not about any particular person.
I wanted to talk a bit about your poetry also.
Sure.
No,
go ahead.
Overly sensitive. The new creatures. And there's a lot of creatures in everything you do. Lizards and snakes and snake skins and this kind of thing. That's part of your reputation, I think, is just the Lizard King. How does all that come about? Or has it?
I had a book on snakes and reptiles, and the first sentence of it struck me very acutely. It goes, reptiles are the interesting descendants of magnificent ancestors. And another thing about them is they're a complete anachronism. If every reptile in the world were to disappear tomorrow, it wouldn't really change the balance of nature one bit. They're completely arbitrary species, and I think maybe they might, you know, if any creature could survive another world war or some kind of total poisoning of the planet, I think somehow reptiles would find a way to make it.
How does that fit into your own self-concept as being that kind of? And once the appellation is transferred to you, does that put you in the same kind of class? Just curiosity, you know, your own.
Well, also we must not forget that the lizard and the snake are also identified with the unconscious and with the forces of evil. You know, they're the devil's gang. The reptiles are. And that piece, the celebration of the lizard, was kind of a invocation of dark forces. But it's all done tongue-in-cheek. I don't think people ever realize that it's not really serious, you know. It's just like if you play a villain in a Western, that doesn't mean that that's you. You know? I mean, that's just an aspect that you choose to show. You know? So I don't really take that seriously.
All the lizard thing and Lizard King and all that.
That's supposed to be ironic. You know. Also, you know, and on a much more basic level, I've just always loved reptiles, horned toads. I grew up in the Southwest for part of my life, and I used to catch horned toads and lizards, and of course snakes are. I still can't get too near snakes somehow. They still have kind of a. I mean, it's hard for me to pick up a snake and play with it. Some people can do it quite easily, but there's something deep in the human memory that responds strongly to snakes. You know, they're probably.
The childhood dreams. and all those
Yeah.
things, you know, in one form or another.
Even if you've never seen one, you have like a dragon, you know, St. George and the dragon. I think a snake just embodies probably everything we fear, you know.
Mhm.
But also, you know, basically their skins are just beautiful, you know. I guess that's why they become so fashionable, and well, I think they always have been, you know. But recently, snakeskin clothes and boots and
There's probably also a little victory in taking the snake and wearing it.
Yeah,
sort of
right.
immunity.
Right, sure. What do they call that? A totem or something? Or not a totem. What's a good luck? A talisman?
Talisman.
Something? Yeah.
Another thing I saw in the New Creatures is a fascination with mirrors as opposed to windows, and looking through things and having things look back at you.
And I know, and it's interesting because that book was mainly written when I was very naive, so it wasn't something that was born out of you know, any great awareness of the universe or anything. It was a very naive little book, but somehow, for me, it holds up, a lot of it.
Does it bother you in a way that, you know, because you've got this written down, or because you've made some statement, the position that you're in, that people keep throwing it back at you, like I'm doing?
Well, it always amazes me that people think you're 2 years younger than you are. You know, I guess that's why you have to keep doing interviews. You know, it's like seeing baby pictures or something. It's kind of embarrassing and funny at the same time.
You mean the old interviews?
Well, no, I mean interviews. I've always said about what I thought, you know, but just people believe old press clippings or something, you know. And remember a couple years ago when all that stuff was going on? Well, people still remember all that, you know. I think it fulfilled a need people had, you know, for some figure who would represent a lot of things, so they created this thing. I had a good time.
A lot of the things you said were, it seems to me, you know, now it seems to me perhaps calculated to get this kind of thing. Referring, you know, your music being part of the Wild West.
Yeah.
And your erotic politics, is that what you said?
Erotic politics, yeah. Well, you know, I think more than writing music and as a singer, any of that, I think my greatest talent was I had an instinctive knack for self-image propagation. You know, I was very good at manipulating publicity, just with a few little phrases like that, because having grown up on television and mass magazines and all that, I knew instinctively what people would attach onto, and so I just dropped these little jewels here and there, very innocently and seemingly innocently, and of course, you know, it was like just calling signals, you know.
Do you think that's what the appeal of the Doors was, or is?
No, I think we were very timely. The music and some of the ideas are very timely. They seem kind of naive now, but I remember a couple of years ago, people were into some very weird things. You know, there was a high energy level, and you could say things like that and almost half-ass believe it, you know. Whereas now it seems very naive. And no, I think it was a combination of good musicianship and timeliness. And we may have been one of the first groups to come along that were openly self-conscious about being performers. In other words, reflecting on our own career as it was happening.
Yeah. Is it going to be? Do you foresee a change because in your music now and the things that you're going to be recording today?
Yeah.
Are they going to be less conscious of are they going to be as trend conscious or?
Well, it's not that we were trend conscious. We were doing exactly what we would have done anyway. But it came at the right time when you could get away with expressing sentiments like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I'm sure we would have done the same thing anyway. Well, for example, the first album is not really socially conscious at all. It's just very universal, personal statements.
Mm-hmm.
And then each one got a little more socially aware, of the whole landscape, and perhaps to the detriment of the music. I'm not sure. Although there were a couple of, I never thought of any of the songs as being political in that sense. They were more. Really, they could, as we traveled around and played to large groups of people, then some of the words couldn't help reflecting the things that I ran into, traveling around. That was mainly it. It wasn't any conscious program. But in answer to your original question, I think that probably the things we'll record now get back to the blues, essentially, is what we do best, is blues. And I think we may even do a couple old blues and some blues of our own. And so...
By blues, I kind of...
just your basic blues,
yeah, but I still hear the, that kind of driving doors.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good blues. It won't be like... Yeah, it won't be like a guy with a guitar playing the blues. It'll be electric blues, but blues nevertheless. I hope. You never know. When you start an album, you have one idea, and it could end up entirely different. But that's what I'm going to push for. Is that's the music I enjoy doing the best. It's the most fun to sing. I like jazz also, but you don't need a singer really for jazz.
that would just cut you out.
But those guys really, they ought to do some instrumentals. I've always pushed for that, but they've been reluctant to do it. I wish they would. For three guys, with a drummer and just two instruments, these guys put out a lot of music, a lot of sound, and it's.
What did you think when, again, I think it was in the Rolling Stone interview, when you added the line, "Father, I want to kill you," and it freaked them at the whiskey, and that terminated a thing there. How did you react when people were reacting that way to things you were singing?
Well, I like any kind of reaction I can get. So I enjoy it. Just anything to get people to think, I mean, if you can get a whole club full of drunk, stoned people to actually wake up from it and think, I mean, you're doing something. Because that's not what they come there for. It's just to lose themselves,
Do you think you'll be able to do that as well in film, as you've been able to do in person?
I don't see why not. I got an instinctive feeling for the film media. I think I'll do pretty good at it.
The things I've noticed that when someone puts down a good film, the best reaction they can get, if it's good to the same intensity that the Doors are when they're playing, is that people walk out on it. Is it?
Well, See, I like that kind of thing because I've never thought that an audience should be as passive as they become, and so that's just. I think an audience should be an active participant in creating what's happening, and you can even do that with a film. You know, for example, it's up to you to close your eyes anytime you want. Or get up and walk out for 5 minutes and come back, and that makes an entirely different movie, right? Than what a person would see if they just sat dutifully through it from beginning to end.
Did you try and do a live performance as part of Feast of Friends when it was in San Francisco? Did it close with a... Someone told me that...
Did we show that up there? I think we may have at one time, yeah.
Or have you done that?
Oh, we did that at the Aquarius. We showed it after the concert was over. We showed that film, but that doesn't mean anything, you know. That was just because we'd made this film that we thought was really neat, and no one wanted to distribute it or anything, so we just show it whenever we could. Because it was worth seeing, you know, and I'm glad we made it. It'll be a good document of that era.
Do you find that people are more willing to accept your films, or more willing to dismiss your films, knowing either your notoriety or your background as singer?
I think I may get a chance to make a film because of that notoriety. I'll probably get one chance, you know, and if it doesn't really make it, it'll be very hard to get another chance. But I think almost anybody can get one chance these days to make some kind of film. Yeah.
Well, when you're doing if the film is what you really want to do, do you find it's getting in your way when it's Jim Morrison, rock singer, comma, director? You know, you probably have that after your name, you know.
They always want a soundtrack or something, you know. Or even have the audacity to want you to play a singer in a movie, you know, play yourself in a movie.
Yeah. Well, that's been...
But since I'm not really interested in acting, it doesn't bother me that much. Shall we stop for a while and eat?
Yeah, okay, why don't we? Yeah, that'll... It depends.
I'm stealing somebody's... Oh, my toes.
I've stopped enjoying a lot of it.
How can you go to that much music?
I don't know. It amazes me sometimes how I put up with it. I guess I don't know. It's part of it's just a job, but every once in a while you catch a really good performance that makes it all worthwhile.
Who have you seen that you like lately?
Last night I saw Richard Pryor, which really amazed me.
I hear he's gotten a little saltier than he used to be on TV.
Just downright risque, dirty. That was the only time I've been afraid to take pictures, because I was sitting in the back, and I was only photographer there at the time, and I just clicked from way in back at the bitter end, and he goes, "Stop the show, I hear a camera." You know, I put it down real quick, you know.
What was he worried about that for? He just didn't
Nothing, just as a part of the
routine.
Part of the routine. And then eventually I came up front and he stopped the show and, you know, started posing for me, which was sort of fun.
Well, was there big crowds there?
There was, surprisingly. When we got there was very few people, and we thought it was going to be, you know, another night at the empty bitter end. And it filled up, almost full. Which was really amazing.
What do you listen to?
I don't listen much. I really don't. I never did, you know. I kind of came along when rock and roll, the old rock and roll was the big thing, and like I guess a lot of people knocked me out. And then I discovered blues in college. I like that. And if I'm ever going to listen to anything these days, I like jazz. But man, there's just so much music. You can't. It's like swimming in a sea of marshmallows or something. You can't fall over everywhere.
Well, there's. I've seen perhaps like 3 or 4 performances in the last 6 months or so that I just thought were exceptional. And I've stopped going to a lot of places, like the Whiskey. Unless there's someone that I desperately want to see, I won't go there. Or someone that, there's some kind of attraction to go see them. One was Pink Floyd, if you've heard them at all.
I think they're... The only thing I've heard is the things in Zabriskie Point is the beginning and the end. And they knocked me out. And I've heard a few... Oh, I heard them in Hyde Park. I happened to be in London when they did a free concert in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could listen to them a lot.
That was an exceptional performance. Elton John, as a performer, was.
In fact, when I heard them and when I heard Miles a few times at the Manhole and at the Isle of Wight, I couldn't believe that he got it together to do the Isle of Wight. And I mean, I thought it was good. This new sound he has now. When I heard those two things, I said to myself, well, see, I'm not a musician, so I wouldn't know how to. All I knew was there was something there, and I figured if we couldn't go in that direction, and get complex like that, then best for us to do what we can really do best, which is blues. I don't think we'll ever. I don't know. I guess Pink Floyd's been together quite a while doing that kind of music, haven't they? They're not an overnight thing. Of course, Miles is, music's been his whole life, so I guess you can't get into that thing overnight. But
yeah. And some people I've seen have just been fun to see. Linda Ronstadt is fun to watch perform.
I really like her voice a lot.
Yeah. She's gotten a lot. Yeah, she's gotten a lot more relaxed on stage.
She's one of my. In fact, we played with her one time in Boston and some other city back east.
She was talking about Boston. I think really.
I really enjoyed it. I don't think she had a band that she'd been with for very long, and that didn't help it.
She has that problem regularly.
I also like that the singer in Mother Earth. No.
Oh,
Tracy. Yeah, I really like her.
Oh, she destroys me. I just listening to her album, the original album this morning, Down So Low on it, Mother Earth. She's incredible.
Like Bessie Smith. She was the one like Bessie Smith? Blues?
I don't know, she's just great.
I have a friend, a girl, that's married to a friend of mine, and she only sings for friends. And I think if she ever performed publicly or on record, she'd be one of the great singers. I won't say any more about it, but there are nothing like a good female singer, There are not that many. I mean, the ones that I like personally.
Have you ever seen a group called Pollution?
No, I've heard they're quite good.
There's a chick, a little dumpy chick that sings with them. She's just got a voice.
There's Gail Hannis.
That's what I've heard. Someone else told me that.
Gail Hannis and Joe Mama has a nice voice.
I haven't seen them either. That's.
Just somebody's gonna hit. Some chick's just gonna come along, and I hope it's Barbara Moritz.
I think everyone's trying to sort of get into Janis Joplin's place, and
But there's a void that needs to be filled.
I don't think it needs to be filled.
Oh, I do.
I think there's a void, and voids are just fine.
mean, I just really feel a lack for that kind of a singer, good chick blues singers.
Oh,
And how many, I listen to Bessie Smith over and over again.
Yeah, but as soon as you have someone like that, then the people want to kill them or something and get a new one.
Not me.
Well, you know, I actually don't know a thing about jazz. But for me, what it means is a kind of music that's based on improvising, in which you start out a set and you have an idea of the steps that it might go through, but it could turn it into something different. And when I see to me there's a show where they know exactly what they're going to do every step, and they come out and do a lot of songs. And then there's another type of music where you can feel the musicians reaching, and that's the kind that I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
and it can be in any music. It doesn't have to be what we call jazz. That, to me, that's what jazz means.
well, I know you get someone like Blood, Sweat, and Tears comes out and just does a set, and it's perfect, and they split. The band does the same thing. They come out and they're perfect, and they sound exactly like their albums, and then they split. And it leaves you with a kind of feeling that you might have stayed home and watched the album.
Yeah, Sly and the Family Stone concert was like that. It was very irritating. I mean, he said everybody up, and everybody got up and screamed and yelled. And you know, it was just very irritating because his music didn't warrant it. It wasn't stimulating the audience to, you know, get up.
Well,